Hey everyone, welcome back. As always, if you don't know who I am Tamika Michelle Johnson, and I am an attorney, dating expert, and founder of Platinum Connections. And today I want to talk a little bit about why so many relationships don't work and or why they are unhealthy and how to change that. So the number one reason that many relationships don't work is simply because we have not been taught or shown how to be in relationships. Now let's really look into that. I'm gonna give you guys an example. My parents, as you know, you may have already known, were married for 51 years, and in my opinion was not a great relationship. And I am in the process of writing a book, and so I had to, start writing some things down and exploring some things in depth. And as I was writing, I went to my mother and asked her some questions. I kind of had like a good feel for how my parents were raised. There were a couple things that I was missing. First, both my parents were born and raised in the South, one in Georgia, one in South Carolina. Their similarities were, again, they were raised in the South and they worked on the fields and they were poor. They both ended up migrating to Connecticut, which is where they met, for different reasons in a different way. And they met in college. The first ones really to go to college for both of them and their families. And they had other similarities, which, I didn't even realize the depth of it and how that influenced the way that they parented my brother and I. So my mother was not raised by her mother. When my mother was a baby, her mother left and went up north, and my mother's grandmother raised her. And my mother didn't really reconnect with her mother until she was a teenager, about 13 years old. My mother had never known really her father. I think she saw him a few times, maybe 3 times in her life, was not present at all. So she didn't have a father in the household and wasn't even raised by her mother. She did end up living with her mother, I guess, as her later years in high school. My father, he was raised for the most part by his mother, but as a teenager, 13, 14 years old, he was shipped off to go live with other family members, not by his choice. My father did not know his father. Did not meet him until he was in his 20s. So he didn't have a father. He didn't have his father around in his life. My grandmother married 3 times. The first time to my father and his older brother's father, but left. They were divorced. My father was a baby, so he didn't know. And then a little while after that, my grandmother married another man, and by all accounts, my father stated that this man was nice, was a good guy, was a nice guy. And my grandmother had 2 more boys. So my grandmother had 4 boys altogether, my father being the second oldest. That didn't work. Those 2 divorced. A couple years later, my grandmother married again. And my father, again, was a teenager, young teenager. And his mother told him that it wasn't fair for another man to raise children that aren't his. And since you and your older brother are older, you're going to go live with your father's family members who, my father and them, they may have known them a little bit. But anyway, they were shipped off. Not too far away, but they had to leave. And so eventually, again, both my parents ended up in Connecticut. That's where they met. And they got together. So you have 2 adults who didn't have a father in the home, did not have their father in the home, had somewhat of an unstable upbringing, and now they're together, and now they're married, and now they're having a family. And they don't know shit about having a good relationship because they've never seen it. My mom's stepfather, he wasn't a good guy to her. And we'll kind of leave it at that. But they were both missing a father figure. So my father was the man that he thought a man should be. Very authoritative, not just to his kids, but to everyone. And if anyone knows my father, they know that's the case, very authoritative. As I said before in other videos, my parents did well considering where they came from, and we had a decent lifestyle growing up, probably lower middle class. We grew up on a couple acres of land in the suburbs. We had a pool, we had a basketball court, we had an RV, we had a pool table. We did decent. And it was stable for us. That's where, I learned to be very confident. That was instilled in me. But the relationship between my mother and my father was not the best. And I've said before, it's not something that I emulated or wanted to have. And I say that to say is because two people, a lot of times, come together and they connect on negative issues in their lives. Like, oh yeah, I didn't have my father. Oh yeah, I grew up poor and, didn't have a great relationship with my mother. And then they get together and they try to have a family. And they've never discussed what this looks like, how it's supposed to go. What are our values? How do we do this? How do we communicate with one another? Because communication is huge, right? And they did not show us a good example of what a good relationship was. Fortunately for me, I've always been fascinated with the dynamics of relationships, why they work, why they didn't work. And in my mid to late 20s, it occurred to me why, one, I was not great in relationships is because one was the things that I was taught and the things that I saw growing up. The relationship of your parents or two parents is the first relationship that children will look at to emulate what a relationship should look like. If it's full of drama, relationships are going to be full of drama. If there's abuse, there's likely going to be abuse on someone's end in a subsequent relationship. There's a lot of yelling, screaming, horrible communication. They're likely going to be the same way. So how can we expect to have good relationships? How can society as a whole think that relationships are going to work when many of us haven't even seen what that looks like? They teach us calculus in school. I will never use calculus. They teach algebra, which, maybe we use a little bit, but not a lot. But won't use it. They teach us some business. They teach us business. And some of us do use that. But all of us are in relationships. And they don't teach that in school. And that is really something that is missing if you're not aware of the fact that knowing how to communicate and deal in relationships is vital and it's important. Then we grow up, enter in these crazy, unhealthy relationships that don't work, and the cycle continues because we don't know what we're doing. That's the importance of therapy and coaching, especially as we're talking in reference to dating and relationships. What I just talked about, that's actually step 2 of my dating coaching program that I have. It's really exploring your history, the way that you were raised, the relationships that you saw, how they impacted you, how they affected you, how they're affecting you now. How if you don't change them, will continue to negatively affect you in dating and relationships. You have to be aware of it, and you've got to change it. I was so ecstatic when, again, I had an epiphany in my late 20s as to why I wasn't connecting with the people that I was dating. I had no problems necessarily getting dates, going out on dates, meeting people, but I didn't get but so far. The physical wasn't an issue. necessarily, but the emotional connection wasn't there. And when I found that out and it was revealed to me, it was amazing. It's amazing just to know that, because I was able to change. And I was able to change in a way that was beneficial for me going forward. Now, I didn't finish the transformation process, but I was one step closer. And it's always just why I encourage you to seek a professional out, seek someone in whatever areas in your life that you're not doing well in. There's like this stigma of being very successful or professional, being financially secure, looking perfect on paper is what I say. We don't like to reach out for help when it comes to our personal relationships. When it comes to business, in a heartbeat, we'll reach out to somebody else, right? When it comes to our relationships, because we're taught as Black people for a long time not to talk about your problems, just handle them. It's way easier to handle business in your career. You can take control of that. You can learn that. But relationships, it's another beast. As you already know, or many of you know already, that I was in prior relationships prior to getting married. And I had to apply the same thing to my relationship. When I say apply the same thing, meaning I had to look at my upbringing and my partner's upbringing and how that potentially clashed in our relationship. I had a very stable upbringing, same house for I don't know how many years. Didn't move around a lot, had a routine. My partner was totally different, moved around a lot. Mother was there, wasn't there, were partly raised by other family members. So as an adult, where I'm kind of laid back, he's very, very spontaneous. I always had to move, I always had to go, I always had to be somewhere. And I wasn't like that. Don't get me wrong, spontaneity is great at times. I don't need spontaneity every day. I thrive in structure. Spontaneity is good, but for the most part, I like structure to the best that I can get it. And so that impacted our relationship, I think. And we talked about it. But it can definitely impact how you are in relationships. So you want to really look at a person's background, their upbringing, and how their values align with you. And I understand not wanting to exclude someone because they were raised a certain way. I get that. Listen, I've dated all types, some with records. Not my proudest moments. Some, many were raised differently, way differently than I was. What I found though, is I was most compatible with people who were raised in a similar situation as me, household as me. And my husband was as well. We were raised very similar. And we were, like, the basic values that we grew up with are similar. They're the same. So it works for us. We have a lot of differences as well. But the commonality that we came together with was something that was positive and that we could pass on to our children. I realized a while ago that even as young boys, young girls, or young adults, we're also taught different things based on our sex. Boys are taught to open a door for a woman, to be a provider, to protect yourself if you're engaged in sexual relationships with a girl. Don't get a girl pregnant. Wear a condom. Be careful. Girls will trap you. On another level, some are also taught how to please the woman in the bedroom. This is what you do. Make sure your woman's always pleased. What are girls taught? Don't have sex. Don't be fast. Don't be easy. go to school, get good grades, get a stable job, make a lot of money. It's all great. But nobody taught us how to be in a relationship. Like, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to be a good woman, a good wife, if that's what you want to be? What am I supposed to do? What are those qualities? How am I supposed to emotionally connect with a man? What turns a man on? How am I supposed to be in the bedroom? Side note, many of us women, we are not as great as we think we are in the bedroom as we think. I'm telling you, you don't do your Kegels every day, you need to start doing them. That's side note. But we're not taught, in all seriousness, like how to be in relationships. And that's why they fail. You have the other end where unhealthy relationships, probably for a good reason. I'm not going to say my parents' marriage failed, because it didn't. They stayed married 51 years, a long time. It was unhealthy. They stayed together initially for us, for the kids. That's admirable, right? Nowadays, people are like, I'm not going to stay with someone just for the kids. There's going to be problems, there's going to be issues. You have to be able to work them out. But if you can't, and fundamentally your values are different, sometimes you have to part ways. That's okay. Because you'd much rather be happy and single than lonely, stressed, hurt, and unhealthy relationship. Because your kids see that. I don't think my brother has a great relationship. He emulated a lot of what my father did. Didn't have a great relationship. I, on the other hand, have strived to have a great relationship. Made a very conscious effort to have a great relationship. And I do. Took some years, but I do, because that was my goal. I didn't want to repeat what I saw. If you want to have a healthy relationship, you got to learn how to do it. You wanted to connect with good men with similar values, you got to learn how to do it. What I spoke about again, step 2 in the transformation process in my coaching program. Look, it's a mind shift change. It's not easy. When you are highly successful, professional, educated, cream of the crop. You want a traditional marriage though, but you're not traditional. You gotta work around that. And you can. It's a mind shift change though, just like anything else. Lucky for you, I'm here to help you out. Not just me. There's plenty of other coaches as well that can get you over this hump, ladies, to get you connected with those men that you desire, that you deserve. It's possible. They're all around you. There are plenty of good men left. Plenty. You see them every day. You're just not connecting with them. But you can. So as always, go to the website, check out our events, our other services, workshops, trainings, coaching, all that good stuff. Be sure to sign up. Be sure to subscribe to our emails and events and all that, because you might miss me on social media. You know, post it there for one day, then they're gone. You might check your email every once in a while. Stay tuned, check in every once in a while. We'll send stuff out. Have a great day. I'll be back with another video. Hopefully these are helpful, informative, all that good stuff. I want to see you succeed. I want to see every woman that has dedicated her time, energy, life, passion her business, to her career, to her education, is a good woman, knows God, loves God, doing the right things, perfect on paper. I want to see you win. I'll see you next time.